You're always going to be striving for the thing that you want. But giving yourself the room to know that that's okay. I don't know.
Are you recording right now?
I don't know.
This is gold, by the way. Hello there, it's me, Steve Mellor, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high-performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we welcome in the CEO of the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, Lori Melancon. And as a leader within a city that at times has struggled with the notion of leaning into growth, Lori and her team encourage us to embrace the growing pains along the growth journey so we can ready ourselves for the change we are truly capable of. Lori Melancon. Am I saying your last name right?
Yes.
Yes? Am I getting the French pronunciation right there? I'm so excited to have you join Growth Ready for so many reasons. But one thing that I'm most excited about today is that as someone who is having a direct impact on an entire city, we have an opportunity today just to get the perspective of how one may even view growth from that perspective. But before we get into all that good stuff, you're going to answer the question that I ask everybody to answer at the beginning of these episodes. Lori Melancon, what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
I knew you were going to ask me this question, so I've thought a little bit about it. And it's something that, I immediately went to conversations that I've had with my teams, right? When you're going through something hard, a season of suck, if you will, yep. I tell people that growing pains are called growing pains for a reason. It's like that old adage when you say, God, give me patience, and all of a sudden 17 things that are really frustrating show up. Mm-hmm. I think to be growth ready, you have to be open in every moment for what that growth might look like. And so it's almost like Ina Garten has a book out, her memoir, and it says, be ready when the luck happens. And it's almost the same, right? Like whatever you're being faced with, whatever is showing up is the opportunity for you to grow from. And I think that if you look back at your life and you look back at your experience, most of the time, your biggest victories come out of your biggest challenges. And so that's when you grew the most, is when it was really hard, or you didn't see the way, or you thought you were at the very bottom. And so to me, being growth ready is kind of embracing the suck, like being ready for the challenging situation and knowing that that is your growth moment.
For someone who was considering whether or not they'd be able to deliver a quality answer to that question, you knocked it out the park for so many reasons, because I think what you've been able to highlight immediately is how we can look at things from both the individual and the collective perspective. And you're touching on it there. Like you took, firstly, the first thing you said, I talk about this with my team. And this notion of embracing suck, of getting in the weeds by the sounds of it, and just sort of being comfortable in that place of discomfort, I would have to assume from your experience, has that been an individual process, or has that been something that typically works more successfully when you're doing it with others?
I would tell you that not much of my life has been an individual process. I'm someone who, I used to say I live my life out loud. But really, I just share a lot, probably too much. It's something I'm actually grappling with as a leader in the role that I'm in. I'm not very good at being a CEO and not sharing and sharing too much sometimes, right? Because I'm always processing, like, what does this mean? And in a role like this, we're not just talking about growth from a typical perspective. We're talking about very serious systemic issues like race and like inclusion and like the ability for belonging inside of a community. These are difficult topics to grapple with. And I tend to just put them on the table and grapple out loud with the people in front of me. But what I would tell you is that going through those seasons, I think, are often best shared. And a lot of people live through them very privately. And that's all of our different life choices, different MOs. But I don't think I've ever done anything just on my own. I've almost always kind of shared it.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do you think you've just found ways to do things?
It's just the way I'm built, I think.
Yeah.
Just how I've always been. I've never been a private person. I've always shared what I'm going through, whether it's to validate it or get a different perspective or to get help, and support through something, or to just share with other people so that they also feel like they can be real. I'm very real. I'm going to say the quiet thing out loud. I don't think you get a lot of progress without talking about the hard parts. And so I've always just shared the things that I'm going through and hopefully to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. You've referenced seasons a couple times already, which I always, again, as a coach, I always appreciate the idea of looking at life as seasons. I think all too often we just, you look at life and you just see it as this enormous entity that you're trying to take on. And you said it there at the beginning, seasons of suck. You just referenced it again, this notion of seasons. I'm curious when you look at, and we're going to get into more of the sort of maybe specifics around the work that you are doing and the way in which you're having to do it today. But when you're tackling these larger issues, as you just mentioned there, on a collective basis, how important is it to actually look at the beginning of a process and then maybe what you would determine to be the finish line of that process? How important is it to actually look at it as a season?
I don't know that you always know that it's a season until after the season is over. So the way that I really started thinking about life and seasons is Michelle Obama, I think, was in an interview and she talked about her marriage. And she said, marriages have seasons and sometimes a season will last 1 or 2 years where you maybe just don't, and I shouldn't quote Michelle Obama, but I think she said something to the effect of, you can go through a year, 2 years inside your marriage where it's rough. And I think a lot of people, give up. And my husband and I have only been married almost 11 years. It hasn't been as long as some of these really long-term marriages, but that even early in my marriage, that was really helpful to me to think about long-lasting marriages are not going to be honeymoons for 50 years. There are going to be really rough times and they're not necessarily going to be from outside factors. They're going to be inside the dynamics of a relationship. And so this idea of seasons inside of a marriage really made sense to me. But then I started really thinking about, you have it inside your job too, right? You have it inside your friendships. You have it inside not me, but other people, your workout routines where, you're waking up and doing it because you're supposed to be doing it and you're not feeling the juice or the life from it. So I think if you approach it as a season, it gives you some ability to persist through it. But I don't necessarily know that it's a season before you start.
And how does one get comfortable with that? Because I'm completely with you here. Like I couldn't agree more. And I'm just curious from your perspective is that, let's say you're going through a season currently with your team. I don't know what it may be, but let's say you're experiencing one right now. How do you find comfort then in the idea that this season may continue for some time, especially if it is a season of suck? If it's a season of suck, how do we get comfortable knowing that if we don't know where the finish line is, how on earth can we find that comfort of being in the season?
I don't know that you do. I don't know that you do get comfortable, right? Like I think that you're always bumping up against it, right? I mean, that's just our human nature. I'm not the most evolved human, right? And I mean, I can say the thing, but when you're living the thing, it's a little bit different, right? And so I think that for me at least, I'm always going to be bumping up against it to try to transform or to try to push through or to have that breakthrough. I never really getting complacent inside of a season. Oh, I'm just in a season, I'm going to stay in a season. No, you're always going to be striving for the thing that you want. But giving yourself the room to know that that's okay, I think gives you room to actually try more things. Yeah. And as opposed to trying to control it and hold on too tight. Right.
And it's that notion of the acceptance piece of just like, this is where we are and this is how it's going. And we need to almost, if there is to be any comfort that we find, it's just knowing that it is what it is. Like,
and maybe it's not comfort, but maybe it's freedom.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. It's like a mind game you can play with.
Yeah. And that's what I love about getting this from everybody's perspective, some version of this. I've lost count of the amount of times on the show of people talking about how failure has helped them get to wherever it is they are today, and how seasons have sucked as you're putting it now. I love the way you're branding it and putting it. I think that's great. And my hope every time someone brings in something like this to the show is that we find a way to provide a new perspective on what is really a consistent theme that is out there. Like, we all know we're supposed to go through hardships, we're supposed to go through adversity. But I think the way in which you talk about that notion of just how can we sit in the season and just find that level of like maybe even joy of just like, hey, this is taking us somewhere. We don't know where yet, but can that be an exciting place to be?
Yeah, well, and I think when you are a leader on a team, you see that and try to, if you do think about it from the end in mind, that's a place. I don't know if it's easy to do it for yourself, but it's easier to do it in that perspective, right? I remember leading an annual forward, not a retreat, but a forward for a team one time. And we asked everyone to look back at their professional bests from the year and really reflect on that and then start to share. And to a person, every single one of those things that they were most proud of from that year professionally were all things that were really hard. They were juicy. They were complicated. They were bumping up against themselves and one another to try to get to that solution. And distinguishing that inside the team was really, really powerful. But then how do you as a leader now take that and go through the next year realizing, okay, we're putting people in that situation intentionally because that's where you get to the breakthrough. That's where you get to the achievement. And how do you best support someone inside of that? And also making sure you're not orchestrating too many seasons of suck at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. So either you want everybody in it at the same time or only one or two people in it at the same time. You've got to think like a little bit like a conductor about what is it going to take to have some of the organization be working while, and be doing well and having wins while other people are going through a struggle, and then having that balance because you want to be able to have the homeostasis, the whole of the organization be feeling healthy.
You need the balance. Yeah. And so this is why I love the team dynamic, the organizational dynamic that you're talking about this from, is that maybe respectively, we all individually have something that we're going through from a seasonal standpoint at any given point, personal, professional, spiritual.
Something has to be working.
Something. Yeah. And it's just like that idea of just, hey, can we find the seesaw in that and say, hey, where we may feel a little bit of weight right now, where can we also identify where there's good reason for hope, good reason for excitement, whatever it may be. And this is where I really want to get into the work that you're doing today. And when you look at the city of Baton Rouge, maybe even from that very perspective that you just shared, is that here I am now as someone who's lived in this, I've been telling people I'm British born, Baton Rouge based for 12 years now. And so for me, what's crazy is that despite sounding like this, I am now 25% of my life has been in this city. And so it's hard for me not to care. I want to see this city win. I want to see this city succeed. And for me to be able to look at any news outlet locally and always see it, as is the case, whether it be locally or globally, whatever it may be, but 95% of what you're reading typically is somehow portrayed in a negative light. Right. And here you are as someone who every single day is trying to inject growth, positivity, opportunity, whatever it may be, into a city when, for whatever reason, the majority of what is in front of you and out there and being discussed is not coming back with that same energy. And so I would love to just simply start there, as we're now talking about this idea, this balancing act, is that knowing that you have this kind of energy within the city at times, if not a lot of the time, how are you as a leader looking at that, considering that, and then positioning your team to handle that part of the job?
Well, the first thing I would say is that it's different week to week, month to month. And sometimes it's me holding that candle and sometimes in that flame. And sometimes it's someone else on my team or another community leader. It's really interesting that you say that because I've had some very interesting conversations with community leaders recently who are saying, I've never been so optimistic. I've never been so down.
Right.
I never thought more was possible. I'm more frustrated than I've ever been. It's like this push pull, but somebody's got to hold the flame for the collective, and somebody's got to be intentional about keeping that flame alive for one another too. So first I would say we look at this community, we're a regional organization. So it's beyond just the city of Baton Rouge. It's 9 parishes, which are like counties in other states. And so no matter where you look in the region, there's highs and there's opportunities. And so right now, if you look at the capital region of Louisiana, you have unprecedented growth along the Mississippi River corridor. For a number of reasons related to geopolitics and geology, Louisiana is positioned in a very unique way right now for the next wave of energy infrastructure and energy innovation. And so that investment is starting to show up in our community. And it's really, really exciting. What I'm excited about is that we are naturally, and I don't use that word as a pun, but it's just, but it could be. We are naturally positioned for that investment, but we are looking at ways to catalyze even new, different kinds of growth in our community because of it. So thinking about how, while this energy innovation is going to happen on one hand, how can we use that in other industry sectors, whether that be technology or cybersecurity or digital twin infrastructure? How can we also position ourselves to capture investment at the same time? So we're looking at everything as both the win and the opportunity for the next win down the line.
And again, I think so much of what you're saying is where it resonates most with me is I think back to my days in sport, and it's just like you can't sit on a defeat or a loss for too long. You have to get back to practice and you have to get back to work. To now transition to what you were just saying here is this idea of how can you always have one eye on the next opportunity to improve, the next opportunity to grow, the next opportunity to win. What does that process look like when you think about just the way you're working with your team every day, just to always keep that perspective at the front, driving as much of the work that you're doing each day?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's what we're doing. Yeah. I don't know if, the answer to how, we've tried to put some structure and rigor in it, but that is the ethos that we kind of have taken on for ourselves. That's the role that we play in the community. It's really awesome. Yeah. It's kind of the coolest job, right? Yeah. In my opinion, because you're getting to play in exciting spaces. You're getting to dream big dreams. You're getting to inspire people, and you're getting to do the real juicy work that actually impacts people's lives. And so for me, it's the very definition of meaningful work.
And why, from a meaningful work standpoint, again, that is such a hard message to get across to folks, is like to prioritize that in your life, to know that you're waking up and doing something that is giving you some sort of fulfillment, providing others some sort of benefit, giving some sort of value out to the community. On one side of that, it sounds like a really nice, pretty picture, but on the other side of it, behind the scenes, it's exhausting work. Like when you're having to always think about the value and the opportunities that you're providing to others. I would love to just, from a growth standpoint, I would love to get that side of it too, is that what's the lift? Like, how big of a lift is this kind of work for someone like you in your situation when you're having to look at this from so many different perspectives? If at all, maybe it's not. Maybe you don't see it as a lift.
Well, so for me, I'm an introvert. So which is
hard to believe.
I know. I'm an extrovert introvert. Yeah. This work exhausts me in the very best way.
Yeah.
I am really good at sleeping. And that is where I don't know what I connect to when I sleep, but I come out of it. That is really a place for me that is important. So, I don't know. I couldn't imagine doing anything else. I am really driven by my work. I don't have children. I have a wonderful spouse and a really precious dog, but this is where I pour a lot of my energy. And that's just the way I'm cut. Yeah. And so for me, I've always known that when I've been in roles that were not what I considered meaningful enough for me, I didn't thrive. I caused trouble for myself, and not the good kind of trouble, right? Like I got myself in trouble a little bit because I was, whether I was tinkering with things too much or I was getting bored, I'm never bored. My brain has never been more active. I've never been more creative than I am right now. I'm not an artist, but I'm very, very creative. And so this for me is a really fun outlet and canvas to play with. But as a new CEO, I'm also still trying to learn the rigor and the structures that are going to keep me thriving inside of the challenges that role brings.
Yeah. And how much of that would you say you're having to navigate from the perspective of just what your team needs versus what you believe is an essential part of leadership? Because you said a word there, creativity, which I personally think is one of the most overlooked components that can be used in leadership. I think we can find ways to exude creativity with our teams and actually create environments for them to be innovative, for them to truly bring in maybe a more authentic side of what they do. So here you are as a person who individually is looking at things from a creative perspective, but how much would you say a trait like that carries over into how you're leading others?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them. For me, I know that when I say creative, I love art. I love communication. I love fun artistic experiences. And so when I get to play in that space a little bit, I have a marketing background, right? So I'm not doing that full time, but when I get to play in that space, it gives me, just that's what gives me energy inside the work. I believe that everything is a communication. Now, it's really funny for me to say that because I say a lot of crazy things and I probably mess up more than I succeed. And I beat myself up for it a lot. But I believe that there's always an opportunity to communicate something, whether that's possibility, whether that's energy, whether that's opportunity, whether that is life, vibrancy. So I'm constantly looking for ways inside of our work to be transparent, thoughtful, strategic, be really smart, because I believe that's who our community is, really innovative. I want the ethos of our organization to reflect the ethos of our community. But our community is also just one of the richest, in my experience, of any place I've ever lived or visited in terms of connection, in terms of loving one another, in terms of relating. And so how do you bring that into your organizational mindset and your organizational kind of your brand in a way, and how you connect with people in a business environment? Yeah.
So I'm a communication media graduate. And so the moment someone says everything is a communication, you have my attention, because I couldn't agree more. But it's also encouraging to hear when someone in positions like you are in, who is trying to look at things from the perspective of so many, is really prioritizing the need for effective communication. But then for you to go one step further and categorize all the different ways in which we are actually communicating at all times is such an essential piece, especially when you're looking at things from a community, team, organizational perspective around growth. Is how are you not only communicating visions in a team meeting, but how is every little interaction, how is every email, how is every single book recommendation? You're someone who recommends books all the time in your emails, things like that. Like, and what are you, when you recommend a book to someone, what are you communicating to them in that moment? Is it as simple as, I enjoyed this book, you're going to enjoy it too? Or are you actually, hey, there's something in this book that you personally have to read? And when we get that granular with communication, sometimes we can, it's almost like that seed that's being planted of a tree that we may never actually see many years from now. But it sounds as though that's how granular at times you're getting when it comes to communication.
Yeah. And it comes into physical space for me as well. So just the other day, we've had some staff transition. I was cleaning out a cubicle because I can't have the detritus from the previous person. Like, we have to make space for the next person and the right person to show up. We can't have, signage that's scuffed up, or we can't have dead plants in front of our building. Like, it's all an integrity issue around who we are and what we're communicating about ourselves and the community that we want to be.
Like cultural.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. And I think that that's what Baton Rouge and our region kind of grapples with, right? Is that they're, one of the number one complaints that people have in this community is about litter. Well, it's the very same thing. It just, people say that doesn't reflect who we are. But the truth of the matter is it does until it doesn't.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's something that, that's the inquiry. Why? What is that saying about us? And there's some very kind of logical reasons. Like, look, we have more litter in our community because we have more infrastructure and people moving through our community than a lot of other places do. So it naturally lends itself to that. But there are other reasons for that kind of display inside of your community. And those are opportunities for growth. Yeah. As economies grow and as people's personal situations grow and become more stable, those kinds of ramifications in the community will look very different. And so that is a sign to us that we are out of integrity as a community. We have people in our community that aren't thriving, and it's manifesting itself in that way.
Yeah. And this idea, from what I'm hearing, is you almost have this idea of we need to represent in many ways. And again, maybe I'm hearing it wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like if we can reflect what it means to take almost ownership for some of the actions that are necessary within our own home, as in within our own building, is something as simple as like, hey, if someone new's coming in, can we make it seem like this is a place where they're being welcomed and that they have a fresh start to be of impact? Those very same principles and practices that you're honoring there within the organization, how do we then carry that out into the city, into other people? And hopefully littering is a great example. It's like, if you're seeing it, pick it up.
I know. That's can you say it again for the people in the back? I pick up a piece of litter on the street every time I walk down the street.
That's right.
Because, whether it's in front of my building or in front of yours, right? Yeah. It's not the community I want to live in. I'm not going to go complain about it to somebody else. No, I'm going to just pick it up. And you know what? Somebody's going to see that. Yeah. And I'm hoping that plants a seed, right? No, you can pick up that too, right? Yeah. And this is our home. This is our place. Love our place. Treat our community, treat our streets and our public spaces just like you would treat your own space.
Yeah.
Or better.
Yeah, or better. And there's the individual growth, there's the organizational growth piece of this that comes through in abundance with this. I just love this example of littering, as much as littering sucks. But at the end of the day, I think about so much of the work I get to do today is the amount of times I'm working with a leader and it gets to this, like, when push comes to shove moment and we're having this group discussion and I'm listening to them say, like, so-and-so this, so-and-so that. And you just ask a question where it's just like, but what do you want to do about it? And the room is silent for 15 seconds. It's like, you've been so focused on what this person's doing and why this person's to blame or how this person can make up for the mistake. And you've not thought, what can I do about it?
That's right. It's funny because one of the things that I challenge people here, and I know that your listeners are much broader than our Baton Rouge community, but is to think, quit complaining at your kitchen table about your place. Quit complaining about your work, your colleagues to your spouse.
Right.
How do you ever want them to have a positive interaction with them at the company holiday party if all they know about them is all of the things that you don't like about them?
Right.
Right. So one of the things that I challenge people in our community, I've listened to business leaders say, well, my kids moved away and my kid's never coming back. And I said, well, great. What did you talk about with your kid when you talked to him this weekend?
Right.
Did you tell them about the crawfish boil you had with their aunts and uncles on Friday night that they missed out on? Did you tell them about the really cool show you saw at our state-of-the-art theater downtown? Did you mention the really amazing experience you had with 120,000 of your closest friends in Tiger Stadium? Right. Did you talk about all of the things that you love about our place when you talk to them? Or did you just gloss over all of that? Right. And so what are the words that are coming out of your mouth? What are you saying? Who are you being about the place that you love, versus just complaining about it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm curious, just like when you think about how you've developed the ability to do this more often than not, let's say. So I'm going to assume that you're human. Once in a while, you go home and you complain to your spouse about something. Something comes up at some point. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you always see everything positively. I don't know.
No way.
But I just want to, like, where I'm going with this is, like, how have you created that shift over the years mentally, or maybe while you've been in this role? Because I think this is something that goes far beyond the discussion we're having. This is more just of a life skill. Is how does someone almost interrupt? How do you get to that point? How do you practice that enough to where you can say, I'm going to say something negative, but instead of saying it negative, I'm actually going to flip it, and I'm going to share something with you that is way more positive. I could easily complain right now, but instead of complaining, I'm actually not going to complain. I'm going to be positive. Like, how has Lori developed that skill over her life? Is it something that was just innate, or is it something that you feel as though you've deliberately worked on over time?
And it's not that. I'll tell you what it is.
Okay.
It's a lesson that I learned early in my 20s. I did a leadership, or a personal growth, probably would be a better way to say it, a personal growth program. And you had to tell someone your story. And, you know, when you tell somebody your story, there's all the pieces and parts of it, right? And it's gross, and it's juicy, and it's interesting, and it's salacious, and it's got all of the details, right? And then it's what happened, and getting down to what happened. And then as you got down to what happened, and you take all of the emotion out of what happened, then you can really look at it objectively. But then the next phase of that, and this is something that has always stuck with me, and almost maybe to a fault, it is, where is my responsibility around that thing? So I'm always, no matter what situation I'm in, it is, how do I take responsibility for that in this moment? Like, what did I do to cause this? Or where do I have a part to play? Or where am I responsible? Without that, you have no power. Otherwise, you're a victim in the situation. And it can get really, really difficult for you. You can immediately start to think in your head of situations where it's like, this was a time that you were a victim. But you can almost always come back and find either a story that you've told yourself, or a place where you have agency. And when you have agency, that is when you have an ability to take action and to be at source. And so no matter what happens, I'm always, more than likely, I'm not complaining at home. I'm beating myself up a little bit too much at home, saying,
Gotcha.
well, I didn't do this, or I should have done this, or, you know, or maybe if I had tried talking to this person this way, or implementing this system, or worked another hour that night, or whatever that might be. I'm always looking at, what does the girl who wears my underwear do in this situation? And what did she do? And how can we do it differently? Or how can I have agency inside of it? Yeah. So it's not positive. It's not being positive, right? It's not a way of being. It's a way of ownership.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I don't think I could really survive in the world.
And I mean, what I'm hearing is a pretty great deal of self-awareness, like a willingness to practice that.
People would be shocked to know that I'm actually a little bit self-aware, friends and family. But I am. It may not come out that way always, right? Because of my personality. I'm always working on it. But yeah, no, I'm always breaking down, like, where am I at source for this in almost every moment.
I love how you put that. And I read something in preparation for a speech I'm doing in a couple months. I was looking for some statistics around self-awareness, and some of the research I was reading is that it's upwards of 95% of us believe that we're self-aware, and research would show that it's closer to 15% of the actual truly self-aware individual. And the way that I've always labeled self-awareness, at least when I do it in my work, is if you're practicing it, you're probably doing it to a pretty good level. Like, you may still have some room for growth in terms of how you're really coming across and how you're really being of service and impact and value to other people. But if you're practicing just the element of consciousness around it, the reflective state that you can be at the end of the day.
What do you think that looks like?
Well, I think what you're touching on is a phenomenal start, because whether you're using a pen and paper, or whether you're just sitting privately in your car on the way home, whatever it may be, but are you willing to replay? Because really, self-awareness starts with a willingness just to look back on, hey, what have I done? How did I come across? Did I really take the second or two that I needed to in a certain moment to digest what someone was saying to me in that moment? because a lot of the times you can almost replay the event from 4 hours ago in the day and realize that someone might have been trying to tell you something different or more significant, and you just weren't present enough for it. And then lo and behold, what do? You pick up your phone, you text that person, you say, listen, I know I didn't necessarily give the time to you today, but I'm just curious, did you have something else? And 9 times out of 10, when I ever practiced that, they did have something else that they wanted to say. There was that extra element to whatever the insight was. And I think that, and it doesn't take long. I'm not taking an hour of my night reflecting on my entire day.
Oh, I am. That's why I have to sleep so much.
I got too much going on. I wish I had an hour. My gosh.
Mine happens at 2 a.m.
Oh my Lord. But no, for me, it's like that car ride is a perfect example. It's just like being able to not listen to something in the car and just be with your thoughts for 5-10 minutes. Yeah. I think there's self-awareness, relationships. There's so many of these components that, what we can improve and develop about ourselves when we start looking at these things from such perspectives. But where I would love to just get to before we wrap up in the next few minutes is one thing. You're going to be one of a few folks that I interview over the next 6 to 12 months that are in similar positions to yourself. And I'm going to be approaching the interview similarly. Like I want to get this idea of what it's like to look at growth through the eyes of almost everybody else. It is not a position I necessarily envy in any way, shape, or form, which is why I love to get an insight around what is it we need to know about your role that maybe a job spec wouldn't necessarily tell us. Like, what is it? What do you feel since you've so it's been about 18 months now, or just over a year?
It's a year.
Just a year. So it's been about a year now you've been in this position. What have you learned that this role entails that maybe wasn't pitched to you, let's say, when you initially considered the role to begin with?
I don't know. I've been doing this kind of work for 20 years. So economic development and the idea of growth in a community at a local level or even at a state level is not, unfamiliar to me. It's something I think about and have thought about for most of my career. I think inside the role, I think it's the, I don't know if it's things that I didn't know or nobody pitched, but it's the things that I kind of brushed off like, oh yeah, I got that. That personally have been more challenging than I thought they would be. I think.
Such as?
I mean, in this one, it was politics. More than it's, the politics of things are just way more prevalent. And that has to do with probably our world political climate more than anything right now. I had a really wonderful mentor around this work who always would say, you figure out what the right thing is, and then you figure out how to get to the right thing. The politics will always line itself up behind the right answer and the right thing to do. And I remind myself of that a lot, because a lot of times people in my work and in the work that we're doing, they automatically go to the politics. Like, well, you're gonna have to do this, to get to that, to get to. You line up around the right thing. What's the right answer? What's the thing that's best for the community? And then we figure out how to get the politics there. So that was one for me. That was a real surprise. I mean, the other part is just this, it can be lonely. Like, I just didn't realize how, that was true. And
it's so much more common. I mean, have you found that other people in leadership positions,
well, they don't want to talk about it because it's lonely.
I mean, so and they almost have to sit we are talking about it now. We're talking about it now because
they have to sit into this loneliness, right? And I've gotten chastised a few times, like you're sharing too much, and I don't, yes, there are things you shouldn't share about HR issues or whatever, but. I think that if we don't share some of these challenges that we have inside of leadership, I think we're doing ourselves and our colleagues and our friends a disservice. So I'm very, I lead my organization as a team. We have a leadership team. It's not just me. I don't think that there's been a single decision that I've made by myself. Because I feel I'm super focused on the fact that I'm developing other leaders, and so we are working through things together. But inside the community, I think that we could benefit from a whole lot more candor, a whole lot more trusting one another, a whole lot more honesty and vulnerability.
Yeah.
Because we have a dream for our place.
Yep.
And in this community, we've not harnessed it yet. We have something in the Baton Rouge area of Louisiana that, like I said earlier, no other place that I have ever been has. And there's not a word for it. Maybe there's a word for it in another language. I should do that research. But there is a relationship here. There is a love of people here that goes deeper, especially in times of crisis and resilience, that other places, it's just not the same.
Right.
I've lived in the last decade of my life in Denver, Colorado, Richmond, Virginia, and Greenville, South Carolina. All really interesting, beautiful, thriving cities.
Yep.
I wanted to move back here because of people. Yeah. But there's something about that also keeps us a little bit at a distance from the full vulnerability that I have that we could really unlock. Does that make sense? I kind of drifted, I think.
No, you
but
didn't.
It's
you
real.
Didn't. You did not drift.
And it's something that I'm playing with and trying to articulate more and more in my work.
We need to play more with it, here, but also afterwards too, because I think what you're getting to the heart of is, I personally believe that what's preventing all of those behaviors from coming to the surface and truly being practiced within leaders everywhere, like Baton Rouge, sure, let's talk about Baton Rouge because we're both here, but leadership across the board, there's a limiting belief that by sharing those things, we're weakening ourselves. That's the limiting belief. We're limiting ourselves by assuming that. And it's the assumption that's hurting us. The assumption that if I were to be vulnerable about the city I place, the organization that I run here in this city, if I give an inch, people are going to take a mile. And we need to, if we all come to the table willing to give an inch, then no one's going to take anything. Everyone's going to understand, I see you giving, and I now want to give too.
Yeah, and for what? Like, right. I mean, for what? We're all ending up in the same place.
That's right.
If we're not, I use the word juicing a lot. I mean, if we're not juicing every little drop out of this lifetime, out of this experience, what are we doing?
Right.
And so for me, I'm going to leave it all on the court. Yeah. The jobs that I have not thrived in are the jobs that I've not left it all on the court because I've held myself back or I didn't like it enough to play full out. Right. But when you play full out, there's no regrets.
I love that connection, that when you can identify the passion for what you have or the joy for what you're doing, it's actually encouraging you to give more of yourself.
And show up as all of yourself.
Show up as all of yourself, 100%. And I think authenticity is one of these words that gets used wrong so often because we hear authenticity in this day and age and it's like, I get to say what I want whenever I want. It's like, no, we're missing the mark there. Like authenticity is exactly what you're saying there. It's like if I'm passionate enough, if I prioritize it enough, then I'm going to give my true self and all of it to whatever it is that I'm doing in a way to where I'm going to bring other people in and encourage them to do something somewhat similar to that too.
And you just can't be afraid to show your messy side. Like, right. I'm going to screw up. I'm going to screw up. Like if you're interacting in every moment as if you're guarded so that you don't show anybody your screw ups, how much did you not give? Right. And how much more could your organization or you or your relationship or your place be if you were all in? And so, yeah, I'm all in, and all is not great. Right. All the time.
All
right.
Is messy.
Sometimes all is messy.
All is messy.
But that's what makes work not work. That's what makes it a calling. Yeah. And that's what makes it passion. And that's what makes it fun. And that's what's going to drive us to the next hard thing. And so, I think as a community, that's where we are. And that's what we need to do. That's the work that this community needs to do, is to rally around a set of priorities and a vision and say, this is who we are going to be. This is what we're committed to. everything else that is not it is not it. And we are going to stay focused and be accountable to one another, because we are accountable to one another in so many ways here. It's what makes this place really, really special. I don't know that we've operationalized that in a larger way as a community, like some people might do in their business. And so that's the next vision that I have for the future of this place. And I'm excited that there's starting to be a little bit of a community conversation around it. So that's where you're going to see us going. Baton Rouge, we had a former mayor who used to say Baton Rouge is America's next great city. That may be true. But for me, it's bigger than the city. It's a really interesting, interconnected place that has rural communities and small towns and a vibrant downtown, and we're well on our way, and this is our moment, and you're going to see us dig in and do everything we can to make the best thing possible. I love it. And you brought us to the back end of the interview perfectly, because I was going to ask, like, what does the future look like, and you just took the answer right off the question without me even having to ask it. But it's something that I really want to emphasize that you've done here today is the way you're referencing accountability here. You're helping people see, whether it be in the city of Baton Rouge, around Baton Rouge, outside of Louisiana, any individual who's listening to this show. You're helping people see that if we're going to hold ourselves accountable to something, why not hold ourselves to the accountability principles that are going to actually serve our growth and make growth what it truly is. It's one of my favorite things to say to people whenever we're having a discussion about their respective growth is, I hear you telling me that you want to grow, but are you willing to embrace and understand what growth really means? What comes with it? Yes. And I think people have to cut themselves some slack. Before, when I was walking in, I was sharing with you, I might be really okay at this in my work. I'm terrible about this in my fitness. Like, I'm really proud I've done push-ups 4 nights in a row. Like, that's pretty sad. I'm very clear. And maybe I need to give myself like a little gold star chart like I had when I was 5. But I kind of already have one. But like, you can, cut yourself some slack on this, right? Like, just like seasons, like we were talking about before, some areas of your life may really be working, and you may have that on hyperdrive. Don't expect that to be firing on all cylinders all the time. There, if it is, you're not growing, right? If there's not a season of suck somewhere, you're not having that growth moment, because that's where the growth really comes from. When muscles are strained, that's when they're growing, and so that's how you know that you're on this side of the breakthrough. And so, for me, that's a little bit of the silver lining, right? Yeah, it's beautifully put, is this notion of from a growth standpoint, if we can just acknowledge the fact that as Baton Rouge is right now, whatever season we're in is happening, but if we can just look at it as this way of strengthening the muscle, improving the muscle, building the muscle over time, then we're always acknowledging that, hey, there's still work to be done. But as long as we're trying to build the muscle, we're at least more than likely we're doing more than we could be to see 100%. And it's the repetition of, like, when you think about that again. So I've seen on TV, but I'm not doing the workout, but it's the wax on, wax off from the Karate Kid. It's the paint the fence. Like, that these are you run the tires. They're the things that you do so that when you're in the game, when you're in the moment, when you're in the match, you have the dexterity and you have the strength to be able to overcome and to take you to where you want to go. Those fundamentals, we have so many of them here. It's the repetition of the implementation that we have to do, and the structures that are going to give us that platform to really succeed. And so that's what I'm hoping to be able to build. It's what we're building inside our own organization. We're going to be very transparent and share it publicly. Nice. I'm going to share my dashboard publicly in Baton Rouge this week, as a matter of fact. Wow. But I want to create that for an entire region of people. And so I'm excited that there's other people that want to play that game too. Yeah. I mean, my immediate question to everybody is like, what would it look like for you to show your dashboard to the world? Like, are you ready to do that? If you're not, what are you going to do to get? And look, some of my things, ours are several colors. Blue means we did it because our brand color is blue. Green means it's on track. Yellow means it's off track. That doesn't mean it's dead. white means we haven't started it, and red means we're not doing it. We're going to say we're not doing it, or, for whatever reason. There's red on there. There's some yellow on there. And we're going to show people like we're going to be accountable for doing what we said we would do, and sharing with people, not only the wins, but the places where we're still working and we're still building that muscle. And so, that's the way work works. And, that's the way we're going to build our work, and hopefully, our community to be exactly what we want it to be.
Well, I just want to acknowledge that it's already been seen. It's already been felt. I am no big player in this town, let's put it lightly. But at the same time, for me, as someone who has called this place home for as long as I have, that is proud to be raising a family in this city, and I joke about this with my wife all the time. It's like, who would I be to tell either of my children if they wanted to fly the nest one day when their dad is from 4,500 miles away originally? But I look forward to the day where my kids are enticed to be in this city,
where they choose
to be in this city.
Yes.
That there will be a reason for them to be here, and it will be so obvious that they won't even need to come and sort of ask. They'll just tell. They'll just tell me.
Yeah, I looked around. I tested some other things out, and I'm choosing this. There's so much power in that, right? And like that goes back to that ability, that sense of agency, and that choosing it. So yes, I want every single person that lives here to choose Baton Rouge, because 100%. They want to be here, and they're really proud to be here too. That's where we're going.
That's right. And thank you for saying yes to this. You had some. I love sharing this whenever I have this with a guest. It's just like, why do you want me? Why do you want me to come on? Da, da, da. And here we are, 55 minutes into this conversation, and I know we have a huge body of evidence as to why I reached out to you and asked for you to join us, because it's been nothing short of just invaluable. So
well, I appreciate it. It was not for all of you next guests who are coming up. It was not an easy yes for me, but it was really fun, and I could talk about this all day. And I would love to be invited to the room, or let's create a room here in Baton Rouge of the other leaders that you're going to talk to through the rest of the year. And I'd love to get everybody together and maybe have a little Steve support group.
100%. It's happening. It's coming soon. TBD.
I love it.
TBD.
I love it.
Appreciate you, Lori. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
A huge thank you to Lori for taking the time to visit with me as I return back to my studio now and am recording this post thoughts of our discussion. And quite frankly, let's leave you where we started in our conversation. Lori spoke to this notion of seasons of suck. And we eventually got to this notion of growing pains. And growing pains is one of these terms that comes up in my work all the time. I reference it, especially when leaders look at me and they just say, this is hard, this is difficult, why is this happening? And I look at them and I say things along the lines of, these are simply growing pains. This is going to happen when we face and decide to choose change. Change comes with pain. Change comes with suck. It is supposed to be difficult. If change were easy, we would be consistently leaning into it. There's a reason why we don't. So understand that if you are in a season of adversity, you are at a time right now where nothing seems to be going the way you were hoping it would. I've been there. I've been there earlier this year, folks. Weeks turn into months quickly. And you look around and you go, where are the results? Where is the proof that this change that I've decided to pursue is potentially worth it? Well, as long as you can recall in those moments why you started and go back to that truth, the way in which Lori and her team are doing consistently within their work, they understand why it is they're doing what they're doing. And typically they have an idea that, hey, listen, this isn't going to happen overnight and it's going to take time. So if we're hoping for results tomorrow, they may not be there. And it will be pretty discouraging if we put that hope in the immediate return. So lean into this idea of growing pains. If you're experiencing pain within your growth journey currently, then take the time to ask, why is that? Why is it I'm in pain? Why is it that this is hard? And you may actually start to realize that there's some truths there too that are really encouraging. Truths that tell you that, hey, it's hard right now because everything that I want is supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to be something that I have to earn. It's supposed to take time. All of this is encouragement that we need to tell ourselves, as opposed to just simply sitting in the suck and experiencing the growth pain and just seeing it at the surface level. Go a little deeper. Ask yourself why it is you might be experiencing this phase of pain, this season of suck, whatever alliteration you want to go with. Lean into it and ask simply, why am I going through this? And I'd like to believe you can find some encouragement in a question like that. Again, my thanks to Lori for joining us in the studio. And again, as always, my thanks to you, taking the time to listen to this kind of content, taking the value of these insights brought to you by guests such as Lori. But don't just sit there and walk away now. Make sure you're subscribing to the show and listening to future episodes. Review this fantastic episode with the 5th star that it certainly deserves. And finally, make sure you're sharing the episode. Those of you that are listening to this and maybe you're based in Baton Rouge, don't let this just go into your ears and sit there and stop there. Share it with somebody that you know it could be of impact to. And anybody else that knows that they need to be an encouragement to others, this is the kind of content that's going to do just that. As always, thank you for tuning in. Best of luck with anything and everything you've got going on in your world. And I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.